Good morning. May I have your attention, please? My name is Mark Wardlaw. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services for the County of San Diego. If you have questions about today's field trip or need assistance, staff is available to assist you. Myself, Mark Slovick, other members of the staff are here. This field trip is being recorded. There will be a... It's
just through the video camera.
It's not a projection, but thank you. There will be a staff presentation at each stop, limited and factual to the information that we have on record and have produced. No public testimony will be taken today. Commissioners, if you have a question that you would like staff to respond to at the September 11th meeting at the County Operations Center, please raise your hand and staff will come to you and speak clearly into the microphone, so it becomes part of the record. Thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Brian Woods. I'm the chairman of the commission. I'd like to welcome you to this site visit for Lilac Hills of August 12th, 2015. I note that all 7 planning commissioners are present here today. As staff indicated, there will be a staff presentation at each stop. This field trip is being recorded and will be posted on the Planning and Development Services website. When we arrive at each site, please park carefully, exercise caution in proceeding to the presentation site. No public testimony will be allowed today to protect due process concerns. At our continued meeting on September 11th, the Planning Commission will allow limited public testimony related to the information that is presented at today's field trip. In other words, I'm going to reopen public testimony. It has been closed, but we're going to open it up to give you the opportunity to speak to this field trip and the information provided. There will be no discussion today between planning commissioners and staff or the public. All discussion will take place at the hearing on September 11th. Also, the public through James Gordon and Valley Center has presented storyboards to us, which depict an opinion of what we should see and realize at each site. Those are not going to be allowed to be used today, but they are going to be downloaded and sent to each commissioner after that process so that we can relate what the community is trying to relate to us on those storyboards, and everyone will have an opportunity to view those. So maps are available that show the itinerary for today's field trip. We plan to visit the following 4 sites. 9:30 to 10:15, drive to the Miller Station, stop 1. 10:10 to 10:40, drive to Covey Lane, stop 2, discuss roadway issues. 10:40 to 11:10, drive to Megan Terrace, discuss Mountain Ridge Road. 11:10 to 11:20, drive to DSFPD Station number 11, and that's our wrap-up. We should be done before noon. So, thank you for coming out to this Planning Commission site of Lilac Hills. I will now entertain a motion to continue this item to our next Planning Commission meeting on September 11th at 9 a.m. on County Operations Center. That's at the end. Okay.
Yes.
Why'd you give it to me to read that?
Not paying attention.
If you notice, we're not together. Okay, Commissioner Beck.
So, Brian, I'd like to clarify. There are 10 road exceptions, 7 of which the county is supporting, 3 of which they are not. Are we going to see all 10 of those?
Commissioner Beck, if anybody didn't hear, was asking if we're going to see all 10 road exceptions today. So I'll just get started with the portion of the presentation that I was going to cover. So like Brian said, we're going to be making 4 stops. If everybody could get a little bit closer so I don't have to yell. So stop 1 will be the CAL FIRE Miller Station site. The second stop will be on Covey Lane. The third stop will be along Megan Terrace, where we will view Mountain Ridge Road. And then the fourth stop will be at the Deer Springs Fire Station on Circle R. We will see all design exceptions for the external roads. The proposed internal roads, there's 2. Obviously, we can't view those. Those are not existing roads. But we will drive by and view all of the design exceptions. I'll kind of walk you through them. Design exceptions 1, 2, 3, and 4 are along West Lilac Road leading up to the CAL FIRE Miller Station site. So we will not directly stop at those locations, but we will drive along those locations. The first one is the section from the bridge to Old Highway 395. There is an exception there to reduce the shoulders and the parkways. The bridge, the exception is to not expand the existing bridge and to add a sidewalk on the south side. Exception 3 is to improve the portion off-site to the 2.2C standard, transition to the roundabout that is going to be placed at the entrance at the northwest corner of the site. In your package that we provided, there are cross sections of all the different exception requests. Exception 4 is the transition from the roundabout back to existing West Lilac Road. Exception 5 we will discuss at the Miller Station CAL FIRE site because we will have a view of that section of the roadway and I'll speak to it at that point. Exceptions 7 and 8 are regarding Mountain Ridge Road and we will discuss those at the third stop. Okay, so that concludes this portion of the staff presentation, so I'll hand it back to you guys so we can continue it to the next stop.
Okay, where's Mark? So at this point, we should just get in our cars and proceed to the first station. Mark, is that on the agenda now? Time to get in cars and get going?
Yes, it is.
All right, let's go to stop number 1.
Go ahead, anytime you're ready.
All right, we're at stop 1, which is the CAL FIRE station. I want to reiterate to the public that we are not going to be accepting comments from the public to the commission today or questions. The commissioners will ask questions of staff of which they will answer at our September 11th meeting. So just so we're all clear on that position, so we have a nice smooth field trip and your cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Woods. So we're at the CAL FIRE Miller Station site located right here. Exception request 5 that I spoke of at the first stop is located along the project's northerly boundary. This is the section of road right in front of us along here. What this exhibit shows is the staff condition on the project for the 2.2C standard along the frontage here. What that entails is 2 12-foot travel lanes, 2 8-foot shoulders, and 2 12-foot parkways on both the north and the south side of the street. What you see as a result of doing that is that you're going to get grading impacts off-site to the northern side of the road by having to realign it and reconstruct it. You can also see in this exhibit a number of existing driveways that would have to be reconstructed to meet the new...
Can you stand on that side?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can come back here and then point this way.
No, I'm listening. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so a number of existing driveways that would have to be reconstructed on the north side of the road to be able to tie into the new constructed West Lilac Road. The applicant's proposal is to retain the existing alignment of West Lilac Road as you see it today and make improvements on the south side. It would be a couple feet of extra pavement and then a 12-foot shoulder for an 8-foot pathway. So those are the two differences between the project and what staff has recommended.
I have a question for staff then. At the hairpin turn that doesn't appear to have a shoulder, it drops off. I'd like to have staff explain how the widening of the road in that area would be affected, both to the north and to the south.
This is Commissioner Beck. So I would like to appreciate the description of what's going to happen here. And I assume that when staff presents this, we'll understand the implications for where we are standing here in the fire station and that sort of thing and all the property owners affected. And clarify, not now, but at the hearing, are all the improvements going to be on the south side and not on the north?
So just to clarify, what we're planning to present at the September 11th hearing, just to make sure we capture what you guys are looking for, we'll explain how many properties would be affected, the amount of right-of-way needed, and the amount of slope easement needed to actually accomplish the improvements. Does that make sense to everybody as far as what information we would provide?
Yeah, I'd like to compare that to what would happen here if there were no exceptions.
Okay.
So I can contrast those two.
Exactly. Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay, then we will have Brian continue it to the next stop along Covey Lane.
Okay, so now we're going to adjourn and drive to the Covey Lane Stop 2 and discuss roadway issues. All right, we are at Stop 2 to discuss roadway issues, and Mark Slovick is going to do that for us.
Thank you, Chairman Woods. So just so that everybody knows where we're located out on the site. The site outlined here in the blue and the white, this is Covey Lane. This is the road that we just drove in on. This is the project's eastern access out from phases 3 and 4, right along here. Where we are at is that red X right there is this proposed intersection with new Lilac Hills Ranch Road as it comes down from the north. It ties into Covey Lane at where that X is located. That would be a 4-way stop controlled intersection. So Covey Lane, as this was explained in the presentation previously, there are 2 sections. There's the off-site portion. This is a 600-foot portion that would become a public road, improved to public road standards from the West Lilac Road intersection to the project boundary. Internally, the project would be a private road constructed to private road standards. It would be reconstructed within the project, tied back into the intersection with Lilac Hills Ranch Road, and then it would ultimately continue on as the existing access road easement does today. The other issue that we wanted to point out at this location is, and we discussed this at the previous hearing, was the sight distance concerns at the West Lilac Road Covey Lane intersection. Currently looking south, they do not have adequate sight distance. If you look as we drive out onto the next stop, if you look to the south, there's an existing berm that blocks the view of oncoming traffic. So as a result of the project, we've conditioned them to acquire adequate sight distance at that intersection. That will require acquisition of off-site easements in order to grade back that hillside so that you can see safely in that southerly direction. And that's a condition of project approval.
That's Rodriguez, right?
Yes, this is Rodriguez Road, this road coming up from the south. That's a project emergency access. That would also be improved to private road standards. It would be in its existing configuration, it would be widened.
You just define the private road and the public road standards.
Sure. So the public road standards would be a 40-foot public road. That would be the 40-foot. That would be the surface width within a 60 to 74-foot right-of-way. The private road standards would be 24 feet on 28-foot graded. That's a typical private road. Also, Lilac Hills Ranch Road, another private road, as it comes down south, that would be improved to 40-foot as well as a 40-foot surface improvement.
And this is a private at this point.
This is a private road as it exists today, Covey Lane. That's right.
Commissioners,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to refer back to the Lilac Hills Road, which is contained within design exception number 5 generally. I want to understand at the September 11th meeting, the design criteria and assumptions that were used from that for the design of that road. I want to hear from a civil engineer that's how they determined that alignment and the impacts to both the south and north properties.
I have a question.
Commissioner Beck.
So just to clarify, staff is proposing to go from a public road standard to a private road standard to a public road standard, and a car traveling along that pathway would go through those 3 different road standards?
That's a question for the next hearing.
Okay, and then I forgot. This is a new way of doing these site visits. We were trained otherwise, and so would staff respond to the sense that that creates a bottleneck where the public turns into private? The area behind us, this is all the project area, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Generally to the south, Commissioner Beck. We're standing here, so generally to the south, and then looking out towards the northwest.
Okay. And then Lilac Hills Road that we were just traveling along the last 10, 15 minutes, those are, if staff could clarify that those are off-site. I mean, it's the same windy road, effectively. And I'd just like to understand if this project has any mitigation obligations anywhere along that road, or is the assumption that people will not go east? So that's another question. And then my final question on Covey Lane, I remember seeing two different numbers, which were pretty dramatically different, about the elevation change that is going to be required to improve this road. And I saw 10 feet and I saw 18 feet. And I don't know which is which, or if that's even a fact. And then, of course, what the 2-to-1 or 4-to-1 or whatever the footprint would be. So that'd be helpful to get those clear.
And I think Commissioner Norby.
Yeah, the question I have is that the previous commissioner asked about the difference in standards between the private road and the public road regarding width. And I guess my question would be, could we also have clarification in terms of the difference of standard between public and private regarding grade or topography or slope on the road itself, if there is a difference? Thank you.
And I guess just a point of clarification on Covey, could you talk about, while we're here, the cut and fill?
Seeing that I don't have a grading plan with me, Commissioner Woods, I'd defer it to the September 11th hearing so we can actually put that up on the screen and show it to you rather than me speak to it. The other one too, Commissioner Beck had asked, and I don't think it was on the microphone, he'd asked where the site was located. So my response was it's located to the south of Covey Lane and then generally to the northwest from this vantage point here. Just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Commissioner Seiler, point of clarification, actually 2 points. This road, Covey Lane, would not be a primary means of ingress or egress for the proposed community, but it would be required for egress for fire if they had to do an emergency evacuation. Is that correct?
Would you prefer we respond at September 11th? Okay. All right.
Any other questions of commissioners?
Okay, so we will continue this to the next stop at Megan Terrace off of Mountain Ridge Road, where we'll discuss the exception request along Mountain Ridge Road.
Okay. Ready. All right, now we're at the Mountain Ridge Road, stop 3. And I'm going to let Mark explain to us the cut and fills, et cetera, on this part of the tour.
Thank you, Commissioner Woods. So that everybody has an idea where we are located. So exception request 7 pertains to Mountain Ridge Road. We are located right about here where it intersects with Megan Terrace, where we're standing on right now. So exception request 7, Mountain Ridge Road. The project is proposing to retain the existing 15-mile-per-hour design speed. What you currently drove in on is considered a 15-mile-per-hour design speed based on the vertical profile of the road. The project would retain the 15-mile-per-hour design speed as proposed and would widen the existing surface of the road, which is currently about 20 feet to 24 feet on 28-foot graded. Staff has recommended an alternative. Staff has recommended a 25-mile-per-hour design speed. What this is showing you is a plan, and then it's a profile of the road. So as far as the plan view goes, what you're looking at in this slide is when you change the design speed of the road, you're changing the vertical profile of the road, and as a result, the grading slopes go outside of the existing 40-foot road easement. So what you see are these are the grading slopes necessary to achieve a 25-mile-per-hour design speed. We are standing roughly here, which is where the most grading would occur due to the dip at this portion of the road. So you can see that this portion of the road would have to be elevated from its current location. So as far as the profile goes, what you see here, and this is in your packages, the dashed line is the existing road. The solid line is the proposed 25-mile-per-hour design speed. So you can see that the verticals would have to be cut down, and then the dips would have to be filled in to get the road at, let's say, a flatter profile. So those are the two differences. We also studied a number of different other alternatives in the EIR. We studied a full standard, which is 30 mile per hour private road, and we also studied a number of public road alternatives as well, but those are not being recommended as far as the staff recommendation goes. So I'll open it up to questions.
Okay, so the first question I have is simply is all the dirt for the cut and fill derived from this area, this road? And is there eminent domain associated with the staff recommendation? And if so, how much? And what are the lot configurations relative to the lot sizes and their eminent domain? And commissioners?
I guess, are you going to address when we're doing the cut and fill and widening roads in this terrain? Are we looking at retaining wall structures? Are we looking at natural grading and stuff like that? If you could talk about that a little bit on September the 11th, the actual mechanics of how that's accomplished.
Okay.
Any other commissioners with a question? Commissioner Norby?
So I guess my question would be, as we take a look at the community planning documents that we have for this community, is to how we build this road, if the project is approved, how we build this road, how does that relate to community character? In other words, is there any language in the community plans that talk about that in terms of, this appears to be kind of a road that would be in a different standard, if you will, or a different typology than other roads that we see in the area, with a lot of engineering associated with it. And so if the community plan addresses that, I'd like you to point that out where that is.
Okay. Other questions, Commissioner Brooks?
I'd like to, for staff to point out when we meet, the different roads that will be traveled mostly, and those that will be used primarily for egress, because we need to, and I'd like for you to run all the way through the project, if you will, to so that we can see what's done to those roads that that will be traveled mostly.
I have a follow-up to that question. So I'm going to follow up to Commissioner, this is Beck, I'm going to follow up to Commissioner Brooks' question. So this notion of having a different standard, and that is, I suppose, capacity standard for everyday use in contrast to an emergency situation, I'd like to know if there's actually a different standard. In other words, a road that's used daily and a road that's used for emergencies, do they have the same flow capacity standards?
And I guess my last question is a point of information. I understand that there's going to be a gate somewhere at the end of this road where the easement ends, and how far up the road it is. And I understand that only one portion of the project can access this road, and I want to understand that very clearly.
Just a few other things I wanted to note. So the spray painted line here is the edge of the existing 40-foot private road easement. So just to give everybody some perspective on where the actual road easement lies. And then I also wanted to note,
what side are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, so this would be the eastern side of the edge, not the center line. So this is the eastern edge of the easement.
The eastern edge.
Eastern edge. So Commissioner Beck was just asking for clarification on the eastern edge of the easement. Exception request 8 pertains to the intersection of Mountain Ridge Road and Circle R Drive. We discussed this at in the presentation at the previous hearing. There is no existing taper from Circle R onto Mountain Ridge Road as you're heading westbound. So the way that we came in, there's no taper or turn radius allowing cars to make that turn or larger trucks to make that turn. The exception request is to retain the existing road and eliminate the need for a taper. We've recommended that the taper be provided. That is also going to require some acquisition of offsite right-of-way. So just wanted to note that as well.
So I asked a question in the last hearing, and this might relate to it. So I was reading that there's a contrast between an 80-foot tangent and a 400-foot tangent. Is this the corner you're talking about? Is that what that relates to? Well, you can.
We'll address that in the next hearing, Commissioner Beck. Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, so we will adjourn and then we will meet at the Deer Springs Fire Station, Station 11, located at Circle R Drive.
Tell everybody to go to the end and turn around.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is our last stop on the field trip. We're at the Deer Springs Fire Station, stop number 4, and Mark.
Thank you, Chairman Woods. So this is the last stop. This is the Deer Springs Fire Station, Station 11, as we discussed at the previous hearing. This is their existing station to which we measured the travel time, and the travel time did not meet the 5 minutes. And as we explained in the presentation, we've conditioned the project to meet one of the fire options that we've identified in the EIR. Also wanted to point out that the Lower Moosa wastewater treatment plant is located just to the east. You can see it if you just look over here. That is also based on the preliminary concept approval issued by the Valley Center Municipal Water District. That is their preferred alternative to treat the project, to expand that existing facility to provide sewer and recycled water. So that concludes the site visit. I'll open it up to more questions from the commissioners for the September 11th hearing.
Okay, on the Moosa project, I would like for you to relate the phasing of the project to the expansion of the Moosa plant, please. Commissioners?
Yeah, with regard to the first 100 homes and the sanitation, the sewage, and the first 100 homes, could you just? It would be great if the commissioners had a history of county projects and similar projects that handled the sewage the same way, or not.
Okay. Commissioner Barnhart?
We may have covered this, but what I want to make sure I understand the project's in 5 phases, and I'm not sure how the infrastructure phases in with regard to each one of those 5 phases. And that would be helpful if we got a really clear understanding of when the actual public type facilities like the expansion of this treatment plant and stuff like that, when it actually occurs and in what phase. Thanks.
Anyone else? Commissioner Beck, Commissioner Ballinger. All right. With that, I believe that's all the comments we have. And I want to thank you all for coming to this Planning Commission site visit of Lilac Hills Ranch. I now entertain a motion to continue this item to our next Planning Commission meeting on September 11th, 2015 at 9 a.m. at the County Operations Center. And the chair would entertain a motion from...
So moved.
So moved. It's been moved and seconded by Commissioner Ballinger and...
Before you close on the motion,
Okay. Yes, discussion before the motion.
So I just would like, this is Beck, I would just like to clarify again with the chairman that when we reopen the hearing, the notion is to focus on these issues that we've seen today and direct questions accordingly. The second notion is that we don't just repeat all the testimony that we had last time, but at the same time, there may be questions that are unrelated to today that, for instance, I may have, and I may have heard testimony, and I'm going to want to engage different members of the public. So that's fair game, correct?
Yeah, for the record, the public's testimony will be related to today. The commission's testimony is open to the entire first hearing on any subject. We crafted it that way so that we could get all the public testimony and make sure that all the feelings of the public were represented on the record. So with that, the motion, please vote by saying aye. Aye. That's 7-0. This meeting is now adjourned.
Okay. Guys, thank